And now, President of the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengason, Comrade Festus OSIFO, has clarified reports on the rehabilitation of Nigeria's refineries, saying significant turnaround work on the facilities only began from 2021. Speaking during an engagement with Labour Rights Association of Nigeria, Lawan in Lagos, Comrade OSIFO said previous claims of repeated rehabilitation of the Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna refineries did not reflect the level of work carried out before 2021. He explains that the rehabilitation of the old Port Harcourt refinery is expensive, with about 90% of Pengason members at the facility transferred to other strategic business units of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, during the process. OSIFO said the old refinery was eventually decoupled from the new facility because of the long delivery period for some critical components, allowing the older plant to operate separately. He added that while the old facility could produce products including automotive gas oil, dual-purpose kerosene, and aviation fuel, it could not produce premium motor spirits to the required specification without further processing.
In the case of Warri and Kaduna refineries. In the case of Port Harcourt, it was a total rehabilitation. But in the case of Warri refinery, it was more or less like a quick fix because the level of degradation in those other ones were not as far-reaching when compared to Port Harcourt, all right? So the rehabilitation actually kicked off. In fact, if you go to Port Harcourt, if you were in Port Harcourt refinery within that time, it was like a construction site. 90% of our members there, if not even up to 95%, they were all transferred to different SBUs of NNPC. As you know, NNPC have different SBUs, different business units. So they were transferred out. So instead of recruiting new staff into those SBUs, they transferred those people that were working principally as a then Port Harcourt refinery. So they started the rehabilitation. So it went on and on and on. That accumulated in the old Port Harcourt refinery become functioning. Then the new Port Harcourt refinery was up to about 70–80% completed.
The outgoing president also said some refineries were eventually shut down largely because they were operating at a loss rather than simply because they could not function. He urges the new NNPCL management to prioritize commercial viability and sustainable operations in managing the nation's refineries.
Covered there's what they call material balance in chemical engineering. So they looked at it that when you feed in material into it, the input side, what you are getting from the output, it does not really commensurate. For example, if you put let's say $5 million worth of crude, you feed it in. When the product comes out, you are supposed to get a product of, let's say, $6 million worth. But when you feed in that crude, what you now get at the end will not be like $4 million. So you were losing money. And because this is not a charitable organization, NNPC Limited today is now a COMR company, and they are in.
Comrade OSIFO also highlighted the outgoing Central Working Committee's efforts to improve workers' remuneration and welfare, saying he hopes to be remembered for contributing to better pay and working conditions in Nigeria's oil and gas sector.